So, Travis, there was a story you told us recently. Why don't you share it with the audience?
Sure. There's a lot of news articles out there about deepfakes. That's when you use AI to generate either a fake image or a fake likeness of someone, typically online.
Like you're right now fake, right? Adam, he's fake right now. That's not really Travis.
I'm Travis. Oh, no, that's Travis. You're right.
Wait, but you could be talking through Travis. So that's like Travis' voice through your... I don't get it. Are you Travis? How do I know this is really Travis?
Ask me something only I would answer.
Okay. Travis, tell me, have you ever found anything particularly horrifying in maybe a scanner?
Yes, I have, and the less said about that, the better.
Wait, to know it's you, I need to know at least this. What decade was it in?
The 1990s.
All right, you're in.
Yep.
So tell us about the AI.
Okay, so you can use AI to, in the case of, say, voice or video, take existing footage of someone and then make that into entirely new content. The lighter side of that is the actor Val Kilmer, who's played Jim Morrison in the Doors movie, he was Mad Mardigan in Willow, all that. He lost his voice recently to throat cancer. And thanks to deepfake technology, they set him up with something that he could recreate his own voice. So they could take existing recordings and make that sound like a reasonable facsimile of him so he can, use his voice again.
Did it sound like him?
Yeah, it did. And the scary takeaway, though, is that if there's a lot of recording of you out there, that means that you might be susceptible to the same thing.
They did it with Barack Obama, and not quite a few years ago, but there was a deepfake of Barack Obama rolling around that was just using tons of tape that they had.
Funny thing is, I'm pretty sure that was Jordan Peele from Key and Peele because he did.
It was Jordan Peele.
Yeah, he did such a good impression of him. But they took the video footage of him to make it look realistic, and they've done that with Mark Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg, yeah, I remember the Zuckerberg one. Yep.
Oh, the Zuckerberg one was terrifying, but the Jordan Peele one, I thought there was some AI involved with that.
Yeah, with the video content, so they were able to make it match up to have make it look like Obama was saying what Peele was saying.
I knew I remembered some AI aspect to it.
So, yeah, the moral of the story here is just beware that, especially on dating or social network sites and the like, if you see a photo of someone, that could be completely randomly generated to look like a fairly convincing person and be completely fictitious.
Right. So that you can tell AI, like, make this person basically, this tall, this amount of good looking, this amount of fit, and it will spit out a face and a body.
Yeah, there's a scary website called thispersondoesnotexist.com where it just randomly generates people based on samples of hundreds of millions of photographs online. And there are a few telltale details on there that if you know how to look, you can say like, all right, that could be a deep fake. But for the most part, it's very, very convincing.
Travis, is it possible that I could get recreated with like Richard Gere hair and a George Clooney face, or maybe a Brad Pitt face?
I think we should do it for Adam for his birthday. It's coming up.
There we go.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, we're on it.
Hi there. I'm Adam Levin, former director of the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs, founder of CyberScout, author of the book Swiped: How to Protect Yourself in a World Filled with Scammers, Fishers, and Identity Thieves.
And I'm Bo Friedlander. I love to talk about anything involving the various scams people inflict on me.
And I'm Travis Taylor, and I love to inflict scams on Bo.
Hey, Bo and Travis, I want to introduce you to my friend Loki. Well, his name isn't actually Loki, but for purposes of this show, it is, because the story he's going to tell us is fascinating, it's terrifying, and frankly, we should be protecting him as much as we can, because this is a pretty scary story.
Now, is this low-key, like not peppy, or low-key like the Icelandic god?
Thor's brother.
Ah, okay. Loki, that's Loki. Hi, Loki.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing great. It's good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Loki, where are you from?
I'm from originally outside of Philadelphia, but I have been a New York City resident now for some 21 years.
21 years. So
Yes.
You just started to live there, and do you like it?
Definitely. I have a love-hate relationship with New York, if I'm being honest. I think most people do. I can't imagine living anywhere else. But yeah, in those 21 years, I've accumulated some significant memories. So it's been good and bad.
All right. So what's a major love?
Oh, I love the energy of the city. It's even in its lull, even in the pandemic, even in 9/11 times, there was an energy to the city. There was almost a resurgence, a rebirth coming out of it. It's fascinating to be involved in that and be a part of it and to witness it and experience it. I love that about the city.
So I've heard a lot about how the city, New York City, is going to experience something like the Roaring '20s coming out of the pandemic. What do you think?
Listen, I think the pandemic was kind of like a forest fire, right? It goes through a forest, it brings it down to the ground, and then what you see is a rebirth, a lot of rebirth, and a lot of growth. And I absolutely love that, and I think that's absolutely going to happen.
So what do you do with your time these days?
Talking podcasts like this? No, I don't actually. Well, I do some consulting work, marketing consulting. And that's I had started a company a few years back, and that didn't pan out as I'd liked. But now I do some marketing consulting, mostly with financial firms.
Okay, and you know Adam, I guess, from that world, yeah.
I do, yes. In fact, several years back now, probably 5 or 6 years, I guess. Adam, I don't know, is that how long it's been?
No, it's been about that long, and
yeah, sure.
You've been a very good friend of mine and my wife's. And in fact, we just came back from a vacation together a few weeks ago.
Yes, it was fantastic.
And I would say one thing about Loki, and that is he's like dinner and a show. He is one of the most fun human beings that you could ever possibly meet.
Loki, I was watching on Instagram, and man, oh man, you did look like you were having fun. You looked like you were the MC of fun.
It's hard not to with Adam and his wife. They've been absolutely wonderful friends to me. And they are a blast to vacation with and not vacation with, to just be around. So
now I understand you were a pretty decent bowler there.
I have my moments, I think I was a better dancer on the bowling alley than I was actual bowler. But
Loki was definitely dancing up a storm in the bowling alley. So
are we talking like Hanna-Barbera kind of like wind up dance, throw the ball kind of dancing?
We had some of that. We were channeling some Britney Spears.
Nice.
Yeah, we were doing a few things. We had the robot going, I think, at one point.
Awesome.
And certainly a lot of people are channeling Britney Spears these days. Big news in her world.
Go Britney, free Britney.
I know that this is, we're having fun right now, but as I understand it, the story that you're going to tell us is definitely not fun. No,
and I promised in the prep for this, I would not cry, but I feel like an emotional moment coming on again already. So I don't know, I want to go back 10 years plus. Mm-hmm. I was used as a catfish. I was the catfish for someone else, I guess. I don't know how
so let me understand that.
It.
You were used as the catfish. So catfishing is when a scam artist poses as a love interest in order to get money or something out of a victim. So how are you used in that way?
So yeah, you're not far off. So I was dating someone at the time. I met through a dating site. I don't think there were apps then, so I met through a dating site. Mm-hmm. And I'm gay, so there's a him involved here. Him, he, with the pronouns I believe he would still use, but we'll refer to him as Voldemort.
Okay.
So I don't think I've said his name since this whole thing went down. But so we were dating, and I should have known something was up from the beginning. But love is blind, they say. And I chose to ignore some of the signs that would suggest that maybe he wasn't the best person in the world. I seemed to pick him. But anyway, we were dating. I was on a business trip in Chicago. And as it turns out, he created a fake profile on, I don't know if it was called social media, but on this site. And he lured someone else to our apartment, whether it was for a date or what, I have no idea. Yeah.
So look, you said there were some red flags. What kind of red flags are we talking about?
Well, the text messages that happened at odd hours of the evening and stuff like that. I should have known something was suspicious. My friends didn't get the best vibe from him either. You should listen to your friends. That's for sure, because they have they are carrying your best interests at heart, and they have somewhat of an objective view. But there were red flags there. He was also not the nicest person. I also tend to date people that aren't so nice to me, I guess.
Oh.
That's a whole nother show, right? But anyway, yeah.
Take us back to what happened. Or
Sure. So I'll do it chronologically. So we were dating. I went on a business trip. We were having some relationship troubles. There was some arguing, a lot of arguing going on. We weren't in the best place. I go away to Chicago on business. Thank God I had the receipts and the travel ticket for that. I'll explain later why. I go away, unbeknownst anything was going on. I come back, and we end up separating around New Year's of whatever year that was. And fast forward to February of the year following, around Valentine's Day, the police show up at my door. Now, what actually ended up happening was, while I was on this business trip, he created a profile using my picture, my likeness, my information, everything that would suggest it was me. And he started chatting, I guess, with someone, and they decided to meet up. And they met up at my apartment, because he was living with me partially at the time. During whatever activities transpired on that day or evening, the other gentleman's credit card fell out of his wallet or his pocket or something along those lines. I'll spare any details that I may know that might make this show more salacious than it already is. When the gentleman left, he didn't realize that he left his credit card behind until a little bit later, at which point he texted my boyfriend at the time and said, "Oh, I think I left my credit card." And my boyfriend said, "I'll leave it with the doorman. You can come down and you can come back and get it." Well, in that period of time, he chose to write down the credit card number and all the pertinent details that would make that a viable form of payment for things, and proceeded to charge over $50,000 worth of stuff using my computer that I left back in my apartment to this guy's credit card. And that's a significant piece of information, because that's why the police came looking for me. They came to my apartment in February thinking that they were looking for me. I was the person on the profile. It was my IP address that was used to purchase all the items. And so they came looking for me because they thought either I had some hand in it or I was the guilty party or what have you. So that happened. All this stuff started to show up at my apartment. I don't know. The guy was a private chef. He had just gotten a job with a private family, and mirrors.
This is Voldemort we're talking about?
Voldemort,
yes,
or mirrors
the victim.
and chopping knives and like of the best quality all started to show up at my apartment. And I said, well, where is all this money coming from? Because last I checked, you didn't have all that much. And he said, oh, I got this new job, which he apparently had gotten. And he said, I'm just, I got a bonus, so I'm just buying some things, which I thought was odd to begin with, because he had a partial apartment that he lived in when he wasn't staying with me. I later came to find out that he had a third apartment somewhere else in the city. However, he was chronic at this. But anyhow, so all this stuff started to show up, and I was like, whatever. He decides, he goes, I think our relationship could use some help. Let's go to Miami for New Year's. Okay, that sounds great. I bought us tickets. We're going to fly into Fort Lauderdale because it's cheaper. And then he's like, well, we need to figure out a way to get from Fort Lauderdale to Miami. I said, well, my friend lives down there. He can drive us to Miami. So we are on the plane and we land. He turns on his phone and it starts to go zzz, 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 whatever. It turns out that it was voicemails from the hotel, because the credit card that he had used to secure the hotel had been declined. So at this point, I didn't know that then. But at this point, I guess everybody figured out that these were all fraudulent charges being made on the credit card, which was this gentleman who's no longer in the picture. It was his credit card. My boyfriend freaks out, thinking that, oh God, maybe the police will be there or whatever, and tells me that we have to fly back to New York right then and there. And I was like, wait, what? I don't understand what's happening. He said, Loki, just, we got to get back on the plane. So we checked off the plane. I meet my friend at the pickup and I tell him that we got to get back on a plane. So I buy 2 return flights back to New York. We're on the plane and I said, I don't know what's going on here, but we are done. So after this, this is the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. So then he moves out on January 1st. And then on February 15th, now we're now up to date. The police show up at my door. I was scared to death. I hadn't done, as far as I know, anything illegal in my life. I wouldn't steal from anybody. I wouldn't borrow from anybody without asking them. Like, this is just not my MO. And I was a licensed securities rep at the time. So I'm like, holy smokes, I'm going to lose my job. Anyway, so I go down to the station and I walk in, and the lieutenant hands me a file. You can't see this because this is a podcast, but it's about 4 inches deep. And he's like, this is your ex's file. And I was like, oh my God. So this isn't the first time that he's done anything like this.
So he's a big criminal.
Apparently, yes. He wasn't American. He was not American. He was from South America. He opens the file, and sure enough, there's the profile printed out with my pictures, my information. I had never created this thing. My heart sank. I was like mortified.
Wow.
Sorry.
Well, this is an example of what happens when, so many people will sit there and go, nobody cares about me. I'm just a regular person. Why would anybody want to commit some form of identity theft against me? And in this case, somebody very close to you decided that you were their ticket.
Yeah.
And it's tragic.
Which is also often how we do get got, is by people who are closest to us. I mean, they do have access to our things. But I'm curious, Loki, when you went to the station, did you think you were going to be arrested?
Possibly. At the time, I didn't know any of this had transpired. I didn't know that a profile had been created. I was in what I thought was a monogamous relationship. I wasn't on any dating sites or anything like that. I mean, I had called every lawyer friend I knew going into this visit because I'm like, what can happen when I go there? I had never been to a police station before.
So you're there and they present you with this reference book of malfeasance, and they knew this was the dude that you were with, the bad guy, Voldemort.
Well, so the guy that was robbed or fraud was committed against, they showed him a picture of my ex, Voldemort. And they said, is this the guy that answered the door, or is this the guy that answered the door? And they said, I never met the guy whose profile it was. I only met Voldemort.
Which is so common. Yeah, because people use pictures that aren't them. They're like, on these profiles. So that was how they weren't lined up to arrest you. They wanted to talk to you.
Yes, correct.
Also, the reason why Loki may not have understood that at the time is that didn't mean that he might have not been conspiring with the other guy.
Yeah, I mean, I had to come up with documents that showed that I was out on a business trip. I mean, it's hard to prove that I wasn't somehow involved, even though if I had the business trip tickets, because that could have all been part of it. But I think over talking to me, I mean, I had no file, right? And this guy had a file that was, 4 or 5 inches deep. What they did eventually ascertain was that I was in no way, shape, or form involved. But they then asked me to help catch him. Oh. Which was an interesting twist because I didn't realize what was involved in that. And I knew his schedule. I knew his whereabouts. I knew just as he knew mine, which gets even worse. So I knew when he got his haircut. I knew how often he got his haircut. I knew the person he went to get his haircut by. I knew where his place of employment was supposed to be. I also knew where his other apartment, the one that I knew of, was in Jersey, which was out of their jurisdiction. So they couldn't do a whole lot in Jersey. Mm-hmm. If he had actually left New York City, their hands were kind of tied, which I'm guessing he knew because he did go to New Jersey. But anyway, so he figured out somehow, and I think it was because it was the haircut place. Either he saw them or something, but he ended up sending me an email and he said, I am going to kill you. He said, I know you are helping with the police. And I, at the time, was the best man at a wedding in London, which he was involved in all of the planning preparations for. In fact, he was going to be my date. And he said, I'm going to kill you when you are in London at this wedding.
Okay, now is that I'm going to kill you, like I'm going to kill you if you say anything, or like I'm actually going to end your life?
Well, at this point, I had to assume the worst because so far it was the worst.
Right.
Jeez. I mean, this is so foreign to me. I didn't even know there were people out there. It was mind-boggling that this would even cross somebody's mind to do what was done, then let alone to threaten someone supposedly you care about, threaten their lives. I mean, this is the stuff you watch on TV or maybe even hear about on podcasts. But it was unfathomable to me. But so I took it very serious. I took it very serious. I hired security. Okay. So now I have to tell my best friend who was getting married that I have to I feel the need to hire security at the hotel. And so I hired security at the hotel, and every guest had to be identified, had to submit a picture. They were, I was scared to death. I mean, honest to God, I know it may seem absolutely ridiculous, but I didn't know what this guy was capable of. I mean, like I said, he had a 4 or 5 inch thick rap sheet, I guess, of things that he had done before. I didn't know. He wasn't American. He ended up fleeing the country. I had heard that he was in London at the same time that I was. But needless to say, I was not killed because I'm still here. The wedding came to pass. And then the last email I got from him was, I still know where you are and I will kill you.
And when was that?
That was years ago. Knock on wood.
Wow. Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood.
But this is an example where you can't believe that someone is capable of doing something. And then after you find out that they really are, then you say to yourself, well, that means they're capable of doing anything. And unfortunately, I'm in their line of sight. I'm in the crosshairs. So that's a terrifying situation.
It's terrifying.
And Adam, yes. So this actually reminds me in a way, some identity-related crimes, many, sadly, are committed by people close to us. And it reminded me of Axton. Is it Axton?
Axton.
Axton Betts Hamilton, who, I mean, you remember the details of this better than I do. She was hacked by her mom.
Yeah, basically her mother stole her identity. Her comment to us was, I did not know for 19 years I was sitting across the table from my identity thief, that she didn't even find out her mother was the one who stole her identity until her mother passed away. And her father found some credit card bills in a trunk in the attic. And then it turned out
I remember this actually. It was in a little metal filing thing in a barn when they were moving, and it was when they were moving the dad. And then they figured out that not only the dad, the dad, the grandfather, had all been had identity theft done against them by the mom, and she had another family.
No, she was living a double life. And, one of the important facts of identity theft, a sad reality, is that a significant portion of identity theft occurs within the family unit. Children steal from parents, parents steal from kids, people in relationships may steal the other's identity, siblings may steal from each other, and it's tragic. And a lot of those cases are never reported because people don't want to rat out a member of their family, so they live with it. I had an aunt that went bankrupt after her son basically stole her identity and ran up an incredible amount of bills, and she refused to turn him in, and that was her get-out-of-jail-free card. She wouldn't turn him in, and she ended up having to go bankrupt because she ended up paying the bills.
Oh my God! So I'm starting to feel like I'm in one of those Ingmar Bergman films where everyone has to go hang themselves in the Red Barn, and I would let's just change the tone here a little bit, because what I want to know is, I want to talk about red flags. Because Loki, I identify with you 1,000%. I have been a person during my lifetime with a broken picker sometimes, or a bad picker. And so I've found myself in similar situations, not that situation, but situations where I'm like, "Oy, how did this happen?" And I just wonder, how there's no making that any better than it was. There's no, Voldemort is, an iconic character because of how much he sucked. So, there's no unvoldemorting Voldemort. But there is the end of the movie, the end of the series, and then we can move on with our lives. And that's where, a good hearty conversation about red flags can be useful. And it sounded like in the beginning you said, like, you kind of gave me the answer, which gave me great hope, which was, you said, it's important to listen to friends. It's important to listen to the people around you when they're like, I don't like that guy. Is that a takeaway for me or for all of us?
It should be. Like I said, love is blind. And so you walk into a relationship with the best intentions, right? Everyone wants to fall in love. Right. And so your heart is a very powerful muscle in many regards. and least of which is the love portion of what the muscle is capable of. And your head, sometimes the rational side of you gets put aside because you want to believe in love so much. We all want to be cared for and cared about. So we don't always have our own best interests at heart because we think we do. We think that other people that we might choose will. Sorry, but our friends, I always say this, I may not be rich in love, but I am rich in friends. And our friends definitely have our best interest if they're true friends. And I'm very lucky to have some very special people in my life, but I didn't listen to them. And I would encourage everyone to listen to their friends, because the friends they're your rocking chairs. They're the ones that are going to be there at death's bed. And they're the ones that you're going to grow old with, and they're the ones that are going to care about you. Not to say that your loved one, not to say that people who are better pickers than maybe Bo, you and I are, but or have been, rather. You got to listen to your friends.
No, you're definitely right about that. And in your case, it was, this is a crazy analogy, but it's true. It's like when a small rural county finds itself up against hackers that are state-sponsored hackers from Russia. You were a giving, loving, open human being who fell for somebody who clearly had a very long rap sheet. They were an expert scammer. And it's like, it wasn't a fair fight.
Adam, you couldn't. So after 6 months of PTSD therapy, I would come home from work and I would have my back to the walls, and I was deathly afraid that he had somehow gotten into the apartment. I later find out from my from my building security that he was using the various exits and entrances. He would never come through the same door twice. He was finding different ways around the building, which, I'm like, next time that happens, can you let me know? I'm on the lease. But 6 months of PTSD therapy. And I later run into a friend who I had known was his good friend. And I was deathly afraid of seeing that guy because I assumed anywhere he went, Voldemort would be not far behind. And he comes up to me and he says he did the same thing to a friend of mine in Australia.
Wow. Ooh.
And I'm like, he left here and went to Australia? What the heck? What the heck? But yeah, I was like, well, I don't really care. I don't even want to think about this guy. So I'm like, I'll see you later. Sorry for your friend. Bye. I'm out of here. But yeah, he was a serial scammer.
Well, he's a predator.
Yes.
And there are predators out there. And that's why, believe it or not, one of the things that is very important is there are programs out there right now as part of identity monitoring programs that monitor the dark web. And they're also looking for likenesses and your name that may appear together. Travis, was that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's correct.
That's AI, yeah? It's sort of an artificial intelligence program, Travis?
Yeah, more or less. They set it up just to make sure that you're not, that if you do happen to pop up all of a sudden, that they're able to, let you know before someone's able to start using your identity.
So with Loki these days, in the same situation, Loki, if he had that, which didn't exist when this happened, that service, he might have had a fighting chance.
Yeah, he might have. It's worth investing in as a service, certainly.
That's good to know.
Listen, I whatever the service is, I've got a couple now, none that smart or intelligent. These are more after the fact kind of things. I would say do yourselves a favor and sign up for the best one that you can afford. I'm assuming they come with a price tag. I now, even through my mobile phone provider, they offer, because of the level of service I have, they also offer me a program that notifies me of certain things. Take advantage of them, because it's over a decade and I'm still emotional here on this recording, right? On this program.
Of course you are.
It doesn't care how deep they are. You just don't fully recover from that sort of thing. It's not just identity theft, but it's just like your life, and you don't realize how important these aspects of your life are and what they can do to you, or the impact they can have on your family, or you just don't know. There are evil people out there, then they can find you.
And the other point of this is that There are so many people that dismiss identity theft as, somebody took over your credit card. They don't understand that there are forms of identity theft where, in the end, your life could be threatened.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievably disrupting. It creates emotional upheaval, and it stays with you for a very, very long time. So,
yeah. Bill, you asked if I thought he was serious about his death threat. At the end of the day, he was a sociopath. Yeah. He had zero regard for, I learned this through my therapy. He had zero regard for authority. He had zero regard for society. Anything that he was doing was just what he wanted to do. With that, all I could say is, if you're sociopathic, you don't care about the repercussions. I don't know. That's my take on a sociopath.
I think that's right. Adam, what's the service that you were talking about that can monitor the various places that might be using an image?
Well, it's called, when you get credit and identity monitoring programs from the 3 major credit reporting agencies, as well as a number of third-party vendors, look to make sure that they also have dark web monitoring. Dark web monitoring will actually notify you when a sexual predator moves into your neighborhood. It's pretty granular as to what these scanning programs are looking for, and they're becoming more and more common, which is a good thing, especially when you deal with people like this person who, frankly, is a locust.
And this person also is not, I think, speaking of Voldemort, if we stick with the Harry Potter thing, what the big lesson with Voldemort was Voldemort couldn't love and wasn't loved. And you yourself said that, you got to trust your friends, and you're a blessing, and he's a curse. So I think we just stick with the blessing.
Well, listen, we can't thank you enough for actually sharing your story with us. I know it was difficult and it's emotional. And, what's so important about what you did, and also what we try to do here, is it can be cathartic in a very positive way. And it also helps people understand the dangers that are really out there that so many people aren't taking seriously.
Yeah.
So really, thank you for being courageous enough to stand up and talk about this. And
thank you for giving me the platform to do so. I appreciate it.
You did something that is so important in this threat landscape, this threat environment that we find ourselves in. And it is that you spoke. You told your story, and we try here on What the Hack to create a no shame zone. But, when it's about maybe getting scammed on when you're buying something that is not actually for sale, it's a lot different than this. And so from the bottom of my heart, I just want to thank you for opening your heart and telling us the story.
Well, you're certainly welcome. If it helps someone, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm presenting this information. And I appreciate what you guys are trying to do, or what you guys are doing, rather. There's no trying, there's just doing. So thank you for doing what you do. And thank you for giving me the platform to tell my story. And I apologize for being all emotional.
No, I think you've truly expressed the true emotion that comes along with being violated like this, because being a victim of identity theft is being violated. And it's so important for people to understand that.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
What the Hack is a Loudtree Media production in partnership with Large Media. That's LARJ Media. You can find What the Hack wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to follow us on social media and find additional information at adamlevin.com.